Even though Katrina was limited to 1 a couple months ago on the ban list, Musketeers are not dead. Thanks to cards such as like Ladislava and the Virginal Cecilia, the deck itself can actually adapt to any game state. Whether you need a defensive toolbox with Hanali or even Bracing Angel Ladder, or early setup with Devil Force markers. And of course, Katrina is still here to finish games strong. Let's dive into how Musketeers can still bloom in premium. Starting with the grade 3s, we're playing 4 copies of the original Cecilia. This is still needed for our superior strike into Virginal Cecilia. This is phenomenal going first because you get 2 force markers right away while flipping cards in your G zone to set up Katrina for more tokens the next turn. Remember, you can inherit the effects of this, so you can constantly rebuild your board by retiring and calling more Musketeers in the process. And then if you so happen to go second and you do this play, your reverse Cecilia can still work as a rewrite turn. And of course, you want to max out copies of reverse Cecilia. This gets you the second Vanguard attack very consistently, but also you can further extend to the third one. It just depends if you're able to check on the top 5 when it does its go on attack. And remember, every rewrite gives you another force marker. To make this shenanigans even happen more consistently is the card like Usurp. This will revive itself every time a new Vanguard is placed on your Vanguard circles. This includes the moment you stride. Very good setup for the Ladislava turn because it gives you a grade 3 body, so that way you can actually search the reverse Cecilia with that skill. But then during the battle phase, as the reverse Cecilia rewrites, this will come out. And if you do have both copies, both of them come out. Thanks to the force marker generation, these will be easily 33k plus. A great card to toolbox for is Bracing Angel Ladder. You can use it the immediate turn if you need to, but you could also save it for your next turn for the Katrina turn. Again, we only have 1 Katrina, so if you want to make that turn a very strong finish without being interrupted, this is the go-to card. 4 copies of the grade 3 heal. We need to survive early game if we need to be, but also this is a great target with Saud. Saud is able to force activate triggers. This includes the heal, so you can go from damage 1 to damage 0. And then of course, this is a 10k body, so it's great for grade 2 gaming if need to be. And also with the Ladislava turn, as you set up with reverse Cecilia, you can actually add this card to your hand because it's also grade 3. So that way you guarantee any G guarding potential that you need the following turn. This comes up with Rain Breath, calling other units such as like Hanali, so that could be something that you need in the game state or matchup. Also, quick sponsorship note. Check out 50 cards for any new sets and pre-sales coming up in the next sets. You can use the code Jaime for a 5% discount on your next purchase. And then of course, check out Dueling Guard. And recently, my referral link has increased to 15% off. So if you've been looking to increase your anime swag with you and your friends, go ahead and click on the link and save massively on your next purchase too. Grade 2s, we have 4 copies of Sylvia. Sylvia is really good because it generates another token. We need bodies in the early game to have some pressure. You can make tokens boosters, or you can make a column of tokens. That makes a 10k column too. So you can have an L-shaped pattern if need to be. During the mid to late game, this also creates bodies such as for Virginal Cecilia to be able to retire. And then of course, you can use reverse Cecilia to lock these tokens, which they'll fizzle, leaving more room for other units to be called in its place too. I already alluded to Saul, 4 copies, so you want to max this bad boy out. This really searches your pieces. This helps dig deeper, 3 cards to find the reverse Cecilia if need to be. This is also a way to further extend your reach during the battle phase if you're late digging. So again, reverse Cecilia does 5 cards. This can do 3 cards for a total of 8 cards reach. So you're bound to find that extra copy of reverse Cecilia if you do have the counterblast to extend to the 3rd attack. To kind of add to the consistency of what Saud does of calling bodies, essentially Tora is that, but in CB form, so it does cost a CB. So you may want to use this less, but only on a need to basis essentially. Even though I have a lot of countercharging cards in this list, I feel like this actually has made it a lot easier to take off that pressure. So that way you're able to countercharge when you do need it, especially if you're being damaged tonight, or perhaps there's a Hanali that you have to deal with. So you may need to have excess CB to be able to push your rearguard attack still. But nonetheless, this is still being able to board build in the early game. This is something to further extend another 3 cards reach. And if you do see 2 Musketeers, you actually just +1 on top of that too. Remember, Sau and Tor can actually choose themselves to retire for the cost as well. So you don't need another rearguard to be able to do its skill too. Quick tip. 2 copies of Favela. This is another way using the Katrina skill to call this in a reverse Cecilia to make sure you have resist on both the units. You need a front unit locked, essentially, or locked card in the front row to be more specific. So this will protect itself, and then all you need to do is be able to meet the other condition to lock something else in the back row and do the rewrite without being interrupted. The +6 is actually really nice because you can give it to reverse Cecilia, make it a 19k, but because you have a force marker 2 or 3 of them, those numbers start to become better. So think about like 29, 39, 49, and so on. So you can already see that the pressure is there. For the grade 1s, I'm still rocking the 3 copies of Roof. It's important because there's multiple aspects. You write this, you get tokens, and if you wrote second, you get 2 tokens. You can immediately have that aggro with a column of tokens that way. You could also countercharge through this method too by retiring itself. It's really easy to do that, especially during the Virginal Cecilia plays, because you typically only have 1 to 2, maybe 3 CB at most for that turn. So if you're wanting to continue to extend, you need counter charges. And so this being called alongside with a bunch of Musketeers can help alleviate that a lot more easier. It's also the Musketeer name. You notice that a lot of the Musketeers, you know, are 3s and 4s in this build still. Virginal Cecilia really needs that name essentially. You can play a 4th Roof if you want, but I also play Susana, so that's like my 4th Roof essentially, because it's also a unit that can CC. So I'm playing Sweetberry. This is not only a token generator, but it adds to the soul. Again, I play cards like Susana, making sure that I have enough soul, especially if I want to abuse Saul too as well. It just makes it a lot more, it alleviates the pressure for that too. So I do appreciate that. And it's another way to get copies of the same units into soul, so you can later soul blast them. So now in your drop, you're more than likely to have 2 copies of that same card, which makes Robertina, the G guard, live more quicker too. It's almost like a cycle in a sense. Now I'm only playing 2 because I wanted to play 2 of the G era version, and this was used before Katrina came off the ban list a couple years ago, and it's because we had to depend on Ladislava. We had to make sure that we needed a way to superior call the reverse Cecilia from deck onto the field. This will basically, you can ride reverse Cecilia, you can choose your Vanguard because it has the name, and then you can call another copy from deck essentially. This will go back to deck as well, so you can actually use this later if need to be, but really you just need something to get there essentially. This is also a grade 1, so as you do Ladislava, you're going to search grade 1s potentially if you already have a grade 1 on board. This can be your other way to get to the reverse Cecilia without having the need to have a grade 3 on the field. And so what else? We have Sanctitude, Hanali, and as I said, Susana. Sanctitude is a great card. Again, with Ladislava, you can add it to hand. Hanali is a card you can either add to hand or you can call it to Rigard Circle and then immediately use it or keep it on board. Really just depends on your matchup. Hanali has that synergy with Rain Breath again, so use it when you do need it. And then also, like, if you think about it, you need Hanali to kind of like keep you surviving long enough till you get to your Katrina turn. And then of course, Susana, this is a great card to get cards out of the soul while getting to countercharge too. This in tandem with also the crits that I played to countercharge and Roof, you get massive countercharging even during your battle phase. So your opponent may be thinking that you're out of your limits and like he won't be able to go to a 3rd Vanguard attack, even if he finds the pieces, right? But all of a sudden, if you call something like this mid-battle, you have 2 CB available and you have plenty to go further beyond. Also, this is great on Virginal Cecilia turns because it is a Musketeer too, so you can get to CC2 back. To the grade 0s, we are playing the Musketeer starter. You technically can use any. It doesn't matter much, it's just a preference. We're playing 4 Strike Crit. This is actually really useful because all the other grade 3s, we want to keep them in deck so we can call them out. We want to keep some in hand, so they're still useful in our hand. The only card that we would want to ditch is Usurp, essentially. But any other than that, we want to make sure we have those cards, especially if you do Virginal Cecilia. She needs to see the summation of grade 3s. That's by effect, so the strike crits do not work with Virginal Cecilia, just so you know. 4 more crit in the terms of the Musketeer crit. Again, this is for massive countercharging. What's really nice, especially in the early game, like Saul has good targets and triggers too. I already mentioned the grade 3 heal, but this is also a great target because you refund the counterblast basically. And as a benefit, you'll get a +5 and a crit during your turn too. So if your opponent doesn't even have shield to actually guard with, this can catch them off guard and all of a sudden you're attacking with the Vanguard. This can be a booster, and especially if they're a non-force type of matchup, you hit 19 with crit already. Like what? That's kind of annoying, right? For the OT, we have a 9th crit with the Bless Favor. Personally, I feel like this is a good crit just all times of the game. States for Musketeers too. You appreciate the front aspect, the draw aspect, the heal aspect, and also the crit aspect. Just a very good card, solid overall. If you force activate with Saul, by the way, you'll just get the 100 million and the draw effect. You're not going to get the rest of the actual effect of, you know, the Omni trigger basically. That's with any OT, just so you know. And for the rest of the Sentinels, it's 3 draw PGs. We appreciate the extra draw. We want to make sure we're able to PG, especially since attacks are really high in premium. And with the G zone pretty quickly, Harmonics, because you get the ticket shield, you could do the unlocking stuff. 3 copies of Virginal Cecilia. You need 1 to flip for the crest, essentially. And then you need another one for its persona skill, basically. And of course, the 1 Katrina to put the nail in the coffin. Katrina is so oppressive, and if you set yourself up pretty well for that turn 4, essentially, you're able to seal the deal. You could also do some neat plays too. Again, if you're damage denied or you're used up your counterblast on the prior turn, again, if you have a bunch of tokens, you can call basically a full field, and you could even call your counterchargers mid-battle, and you can aggressively countercharge, whether it be 2cc or even 4cc if you want to go that route too. That way, this helps you also deal with anomalies too if you want to keep on pushing. And of course, as a great target to flip for the one Katrina, we have the one copy of Cyclone. This is the additional 5k, and then of course Katrina gives a 10k to the tokens, making those tokens base 20k. 2 copies of Ladislava. This is the card that I've been talking about, toolboxing and stuff. So just a great card overall. So think about all the cards that I mentioned. You can add cards to your hand such as Sanctitude, Hanali, grade 3 heals. You could technically even add your PGs if you have zeros on the board too. And on the field setup, you'll have like Usurps, Reverse Cecilias, your token generators, your counterchargers too. It's really a mix and match. And then of course the Sweet Berry can get you whatever Vanguard copy that you have too on top of that. During the Mega Colony matchup, this can come up more often too because it has a restand skill. So depending on how much counterblast you have, you can technically get more attacks outside of the Mega Colony matchup. But with Mega Colony, they arrest your stuff, especially with Gridora, and they have one Gridora too. So you can stride into this and you can split your force markers if you want to, and that way you can restand those rested rearguards so you still have 3 attacks. If you call a board with the same units from your hand, essentially, you can have 5 attacks potentially. And then of course, if you split the force markers, it makes their Brilliant Booster just a little less impactful to you, because at that point your numbers are hitting the same on both sides essentially. Invierno for recyclability, you can pair this off with Reverse Cecilia so you can have a double Vanguard swing still. This will give you a counter charge on top of that and recycle those pieces that you need, typically Reverse Cecilias, and of course copies of Sau to make sure that you guarantee. If you can't get this card, you can use the other cards that are a little more budget for that. Helps with recycling too. And then 2 copies of Lieta. This is a very specific scenario card, so whenever it does come up, essentially since you have so much cards in your soul, another reason for the Sweetberry V series, you get all the names, and so you can actually just build a board massively that way, especially if you're past your Katrina. Again, one Katrina, and if your opponent's still alive, this is another option that you can still build an effective board too. And you need the 2 copies because it persona flips. In terms of the G-Zone, 2 Rain Breath, again, you can do the Hanali plays from hand, you can do Sau plays to hopefully get a trigger to activate, you can do a lot of shenanigans. You can even call like Susana to be able to countercharge that way. Susana doesn't care where it's coming from, so you can make it like a utility type of G-Guard play instead of like Disruption too. So there's a lot of neat plays that Rain Breath can bring to the table. 2 copies of Robertina, great shield, countercharge, and recycle your copies that you care about. Just phenomenal card, definitely 2, no less for sure. And then the 1 Antero, because there will be moments where you do appreciate bigger shield depending on your field setup. That's really what it's for. I'm going to show off going second play with Ladislava as the first stride going into Katrina turn 4. If you want to see more combos and more stride turn examples, you can always check out my prior videos too. I'll put those in the description as well. But for this example, let's say this is my starting hand. Our opponent went first, and so we go second, we draw our 6th card. Oh, another copy of Reverse Cecilia. So in this case, I'll write Roof. Since we're going second, we'll get the ticket shield and the Guardian ticket. Roof skill triggers for 2 plant tokens. Put them as a column. I like to be safe and just attack with a swing first for 10. This is forces guard for sure, unless they take it. And then this will be your normal Vanguard swing, and then drive check. So if they guard it, then they guard it. If they didn't, then they'll take a crit. In this case, let's say they attack their token, and they also attack their Vanguard. We'll take the damage. Ursip, that's actually not bad. You'll see why. And then we'll draw a card for our turn. We have Sau, which is the ideal target, so we can Soul Blast. What I typically do is copies of Musketeers that would want to recycle sooner rather than later, and then retire this token as cost as well. So check out 3, we get these. You could go with this to get the Musketeer crit if you want to, but let's say we want to build more of a field, and we do have a CB to spare, so we'll use Tor, and then bottom deck the rest. Then when she's Superior Call, you can use her skill, retire herself as cost, and now check the top 3 as well. And remember, we can call up to 2 Musketeers, so we'll call the crit. And also, it doesn't matter what grade technically, so we can call this. Since we're going second, we're going to go into Reverse Cecilia anyway and bottom deck the rest. Assuming your opponent's like a grade 2 with a 9k or 10k base, you can do this setup if you want to. And since this was called by a Musketeer effect, you can countercharge immediately as well. So again, you can poke if you want to save damage, or if they have another rearguard, you can just attack Vanguard, and any triggers you can distribute in that sense and attack that way too. It's just dependent on game state. Let's say they attack us, they're doing shenanigans. There's no shield value for that, so they can just leave it there unless they have some retire effects. We can maybe guard with the Guardian ticket. If we need to use the ticket shield, immediately get that out. In this case, since we're striding, I kept the Ursip on purpose so we can stride with it. So then we'll restand for our turn, draw. We got a crit, so we'll ride Reverse Cecilia. Now for the placement, there's a couple options you can do. We'll just put it over here for now. Here, let me fix the glare, actually. There we go. That's better. We'll put it here, the empty front row, basically. And then pay for the cost of stride to the Ladislava. Let's say we call Usurp back here. You'll see why. I'll move this back row. So you could technically call Usurp here, but we already have a grade 3. So that seems pretty redundant. So we'll just keep it in the drop zone. And then what I would like to do is be able to search for a grade 3. There's no grade 1, so there's no way to search like PGs and stuff like that. I just realized also Bracing Angel Ladder is in the damage zone, so that actually does suck. And so we would search for that ideally instead. Call this here, add to hand. You can call another copy here and we'll keep it simple. So we can swing with the weakest 13. This will be 23. Also, this has the effect, just so we remember. This can attack and then CB1. Let's say the Usurp's better, so we can have it in drop zone just in case. Restand the same names, essentially. Then your drive track can be something like this. And okay, wow, no trigger. That is rough. And so we want to swing with 23. And after that, we can CB1, lock a front row, something else. This will re-ride. The stride goes back to the G zone. We generate another marker. So we'll put it here in the same spot. And then Usurp will come out here as well for another attack. So in this case, we'll swing for 33. And then the next attack is Vanguard, so skill, CB1. Retire these two and check the top 5. And perfect. There's a couple of things you may notice. We can get the countercharger immediately. The only problem is that we didn't have another rearguard. If we did, we could have extended. You know what? Let's just say for the sake of the video, we did have that 5th rearguard to begin with. I think this will make it more interesting. So the reason I say that is because all of a sudden you have enough rearguards and you can Soul Blast 2 Musketeers that you want to recycle and countercharge 2 to make this live as well. And then after shuffling, you be your twin drive. And then now this can swing by itself as 33. And at the end of the battle, it triggers. You can lock these, re-ride, get another force marker. And then of course we have the same Usurp. But in this case, we'll attack with Vanguard first. It's the weakest. It's also 13 with twin drive. Oh, we get a heal trigger. If your opponent is 3 or less, this is where you can, let's say, heal the Usurp. This will be 43 by itself. And by the end of the turn, this will unlock stuff. And our hand size is looking like this. A total of 10 cards so far. Let's take a bunch of damage. We'll go to 5. Also notice that we have no reverse Cecilia copy. So what I'm going to do is G-Guard into Rain Breath. And we can call over the Cecilia reverse. Then use that skill to Soul Blast the other one and retire the Usurp. Check top 3. Again, you can also force activate triggers. So let's say we just heal during their turn actually. So we'll counter blast and then just immediately heal. That just happened. But the important thing was to G-Guard a second time. So you can use Robertina to get back your reverse Cecilias back to deck that way. So let's say this is our remaining hand and we go to our turn. Or let's say we take another damage and we go to our turn. There we go. Okay. Oh, stand, of course. We'll stride into our beloved Katrina and flip the Cyclone, and we'll have 4 cards face up in the G zone. These 4 face up cards in the G zone. So we can call a bunch of tokens. Okay, so we'll swing with the weakest. Remember, 20k each, so 40k. 40k plus 30k from the force markers. 70k. We'll leave this unboosted. Katrina will trigger. So definitely need this. Can get a Fafila for protection. Token generator. We'll do 3 just in case we can extend more. You'll see why. Over here, over here, over here. This will spawn a token, so might as well do it here. Then triple drive, and so we could put the crit and the extra 5k here. We'll swing. We also have double Usurp actually, so we'll boost. And again, we're still on Katrina, so this is a 20k booster. And then forgot the 6k from Favela as well. 54 plus 20 is 70 something. Crit, pretty nutty. And after that, you can see lock the front, lock this, re-ride. This goes back to G-Zone. Another force marker. Usurp, Usurp. This could swing 53. Then reverse Cecilia, skill. You can pop the 2 Usurps. Then check the top 5. So we hit it. We can get a token generator if you want to. Kind of doesn't matter. Oh, there's the OT as well. Shuffle. This is by effect, of course. You can generate the token just to get it out of the field and you have targets in the drop. And then twin drive. Wow, no triggers still. That's funny. 53, a skill, lock, and the token will fizzle. Re-ride, get a 5th marker. And then of course, double Usurp again. And before you swing Vanguard, you could actually swing with this first. So now this is 63. Yeah, 63. And then this will attack CB. Retire these two. And let's see. You could try to extend and force activate a trigger if you want to that way. If you want to close out the game, let's say you Soul Blasted, and then this was the cost. And interesting. So if you need a breakthrough, you can do the 100 million that way and draw a card, or you can force the crit. So let's say we do the OT actually, and then bottom deck these. Counter Blast, do the 100 mil here and draw a card. Draw PG. And then heal trigger, so we would heal. Let's just heal random card. And another crit. There it is, finally, some crit pressure, right? And then if they somehow survive, this is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 55, 65 power potentially with a crit. So yeah, and that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it, especially with Premium and BCS season coming up. Definitely try it for yourself. It's a very fun deck, very interactive, both offensively and defensively. And if you want to check out more Premium content, check out these next videos too as well. Till next time. Bye.